Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. It is the football review show. I'm joined here by Matthew Hurley from the Gaelic Statsman podcast. We're here to preview and predict, to review all the weekend's Allianz National Football League action. Plenty of big games, plenty of big talking points. Obviously, a few postponed and everything else because of the L weather. I suppose it wouldn't be like Ireland for a few games to be postponed for the L weather. But there were a few games postponed. But nonetheless, we are here to review the games, review the action. Halfway point in the Allianz National Football League, Matthew. I suppose it's looking a little bit more interesting in terms of relegation promotion. But even at that, like, we'll get into it. A lot of results at the weekend. It feels like everything's still all to play for, to be honest. And we'll see that now when we start to go through a lot of the league tables. It feels like a lot of the teams who could have pulled away this weekend didn't. And a lot of teams maybe we thought that would lose won. And it just, like, in comparison to previous years, it feels a little bit like you can't really predict anything at the moment, to be honest.
That is very true, yeah. And thanks for having me on again, Aaron. I suppose after this weekend, I think the only two things actually that are a sure thing are Leitrim are relegated from Division 3 and Kildare promoted from Division 3 to Division 2. I think the rest, maybe you could say Westmeath relegated from Division 2, but even then, like, Westmeath have produced some very good performances. They've just been very, very unlucky. Like, they have a home game against, let's be honest, like a Meath team on form at the moment, so that would still be a difficult game, but it is a derby. It might play a life of its own. So Westmeath, I would still give a slimmer of hope, but we'll have to see what happens in the next few weeks. But as you said there, nothing's really sure. Like, even Derry, I know they lost heavily at the weekend against Dublin, but I don't think they're an absolute banker to go down from Division 1. Like, I think they still have Mayo to play, so there still could be points on the board there. And Mayo seem to be fighting away against, obviously, Armagh this weekend. And Tyrone have the Canavans back. And I know they lost to Kerry, but there was still some quality in that Tyrone team as well. So nothing's sure about relegation fights there. Even Galway, Donegal, who looked very impressive in the first 3 match days. You look at Dublin on their coattails now. Like, they seem to be getting a bit of form going. And who knows, like, they might even get to a league final. So, yeah, everything is, other than obviously Kildare and Leitrim in Division 3, everything is, I would say, it's up in the air. And it's going to be very, very difficult to see who goes up and who goes down, especially in the Division 2, actually, because there could be a situation where if all 4 home teams win next weekend, we could have a situation where all the top 6 teams will be on 6 points, joint top of the table. That's just a mental set of events if that does happen. We'll have to see what does, but even on the current state of play at the moment, like between Monaghan, who are on 6 points, and Louth or Cavan, I'm not entirely sure who's in 6th, on 4 points, there's 2 points separating 1st and 6th, which is absolutely mental. And yeah, it's the same really in up and down the divisions, and that's what we want. We want competitive games. We want kind of even keel games as well, and we want some results to catch the eye. And especially with Roscommon losing to Meath this weekend, with Galway beat Donegal, what looked like a comprehensive win, with Clifford coming back to the Kerry fold as well, with Fermanagh beating Offaly. We certainly got some really eye-catching results this weekend, and looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone who's tuning in, hit the like button, subscribe if you could, helps the channel grow and all the rest. And yeah, feel free to get your comments in as well. Plenty of comments flying in here. Keane says a big statement by Galway. The match was pretty much over at halftime. Donegal came back into it in the second half as Galway took their pedal off the gas. The inclement weather played a big part there. Yeah, and look, that's the game we will start with. It was Galway 21 points, Donegal 14. Yeah, an interesting one. I mean, at one stage Galway were 16-0 up, and it was bizarre just looking at a scoreline like that in a Division 1 game. And given, Donegal, how good they've obviously been, how strong they've been, how well they've started. Obviously, as Keane has alluded to there, like, there was a huge gale that favoured Galway in the first half and Donegal in the second. Hence why, I think there was only 5 points maybe, or 4 points that were scored going against the Breeze in the entirety of the game when you look at both teams combined. So obviously that had a huge factor into it. Galway playing at home, probably more. I know the weather does be bad in Donegal as well, but Galway probably more used to playing in that ground. And Donegal as well, no Murphy, no McBurty, no Roy McHugh as well. So in fairness, Galway were absolutely brilliant though. Like, you do have to tap their hat off. Like, they kicked, what was it, 5 2-pointers, like right off the, in the opening kind of 15 minutes or so. And Shane Walsh as well was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, excellent. And like Shane Walsh seems to be, looking at him on interviews and looking at him on the pitch of play, he looks like a guy that is embracing the new rules, which not every player is doing, not every team is doing. But I think he's going to get, as I think somebody said this on my Instagram, or maybe it was my Facebook earlier, or Twitter, when I put up the top scores chart. Shane Walsh is on 30 points at the moment, top of the Division 1 scoring chart, 19 from play as well, and he's top there as well. And somebody actually commented, imagine when the wind dies down and the weather gets better and the ground gets harder in April, May, June. Shane Walsh is going to have a field day under these new rules. And it is a scary thought for the rest of the country, because he seems like, and the lads at Leath Sunday said last night, he's a guy that seems like he's enjoying his football. And he had that extended break with Clifford Crokes this year after they lost to Cool in the Dublin Championship, but that probably helped his game in a way as well. I think this guy is en route for Player of the Year if Galway go far in the Championship. And you look at his performances so far, he's definitely embracing the new rules. He's doing absolutely excellent. So is the Finnerty got 3 points yesterday as well. Matthew Tierney, when he was on the pitch in the first half, was excelling under with a 2-pointer as well. Conor Flaherty was coming up and getting a 2-pointer. Like I thought, Daniel O'Flaherty from cornerback was really, really good as well. John Maher was a colossal player for midfield. So, and Galway were without Paul Conroy for this game as well, worth noting. So, and they beat Donegal so comprehensively. But they can't, it's a weird one, because you look at the halftime score, and if you weren't going to give a person from space or anybody that doesn't watch Gaelic games a bit of context over this, you would have said, how were Donegal 16 points down after performing so well in the opening few games? Well, obviously, you have to put context onto this. The wind was a really defining factor, and it usually is in Salt Hill, to be fair. It's windy at the best of times. So, at the worst of times, let's see what happens. And you look at that yesterday, it was torrential wind, if that is ever a thing. And yeah, Galway, to be fair to them, they put up a good first half score that won it in the end. But as you mentioned there, Donegal, they were without Michael Murphy, they were without Paddy McBrearty, they were without Ryan McHugh as well. There's still going to be big players to come back. Kieran Thompson didn't start either. I know he came on in the second half, but you still have other players to come back into the fold for Donegal as well. So I think they're still going to be dangerous. And for the championship, this was, well, I wouldn't say it's a blip. It was a poor performance, but it was just the key players weren't there for Donegal. And as Enda McGinley said at League Sunday last night, that is an indication that Jim McGuinness has a plan, and that's probably a bad sign for the rest of the country. It was a weird enough game. Galway came out on top. You have to credit them. It was a good performance from them. And just in conclusion, Shane Walsh is going to rip defences apart once the summer hits, because he is really excelling under the new rules. It's 7 2-pointers in this game for Galway, but you look at the number of scores as well. Galway 14, 7 2-pointers, 7 1-pointers. Donegal at 11, and the shots were pretty even as well, but Donegal uncharacteristically had a low shot percentage, 47%. You probably wouldn't expect that from Donegal once the summer months rolled around. So it was that sort of a game where you couldn't read too much into it because of the weather and because of maybe the two lineups being put out as well, especially Donegal's. So it was kind of a weird game in that sense, but you have to give Galway credit, obviously, for a brilliant win, and they seem to be motoring well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kieran says here, to be fair to Donegal, that was a team sent out to drop points. No McBrearty, Murphy, or Roy McHugh. McGuinness doesn't want a bit of a league final. Yeah, look, I mean, Donegal could still get into the league final. I think it's very, there's very little between a lot of the teams at the moment. I think maybe it's one of them where McGuinness has looked at it and thought, Galway are probably going to be up there challenging for Sam this year. Why give away too much? Why play your best players? Why bring them to Galway and what's going to be a tough physical game? And a match you mightn't have won anyway, especially with that wins. Even if you had those players, look, you might have drawn the game back. But you wouldn't have drawn it back, or you wouldn't have started the game as well. But there we go. Keane says Galway, I believe, are definitely National League final bound. We just have to wait and see who joins them. Kieran says also, how's the lads missed the L podcast over the winter? Yeah, no, absolutely. Great to be back, and great to have you back as well, Kieran. Keane also says here, huge wins for Meath and Louth. Yeah, we'll get onto that in fairness. Kieran says Shane Walsh had a fantastic game as well. Yeah, excellent from Galway. And as you said, in terms of a league final, they look, I suppose, as good as anyone really at this moment in time to reach that league final, especially with these new rules as well. Like, there's no team, I think, in the country who've, maybe Kildare, you could say, but like in terms of Galway, the level of opposition that they're playing, like I think there's no team who've made better use of the rules than them, in my opinion.
You could argue some other teams, Donegal, when they are on it, you have to give them credit as well. They have embraced the new rules. Even Dublin, to be fair, I know we'll talk about them in just a bit against Derry, but I think they've done really well under the new rules. And even dipping down to Division 2, Meath have definitely changed their game under the new rules because they have 3 wins so far, 1 loss, and even the loss against Cork, I genuinely thought, I watched that game. Meath were excellent in that game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. So I think Meath have done really well under the new rules. But if you're looking at a clear contender on who has done the very, very best under these new rules, and it is Galway, Shane Walsh in particular as well, and even Cillian O'Corrine, who I don't think played a minute of this game. He might come on in the last few minutes, so I can't remember off the top of my head. But he got 4 2-pointers going into this game as well. There are players stepping up, and this is even without Damien Comer in the team. And Paul Conroy wasn't in the team yesterday as well. And the most pleasing aspect for Pádraig Joyce in this, I think, is they are building a panel now. Like, you don't just have Conroy, you don't just have Walsh, you don't just have Comer. You have lads stepping up to the plate. The likes of Rob Finnerty, Dylan McHugh has really stepped up in the last couple of years. Matthew Tierney, I know he got a red card, probably some people might say it was harsh. Didn't probably have a bearing on the game. We'll have to. That was kind of a 50-50 in fairness. Sam O'Neill's come in and done well as well. Cian Hurden came into midfield and played. Came up the field a couple of times as well. I thought Conor Flaherty and even Conor Gleeson, the two of them, that they'll be fighting for the goalkeeper jersey. Like, there was a few years ago at this point where people were saying, do Galway have a top class goalkeeper? I think you could argue now the two of them are definitely suited to the new rules. So Galway are sorted in that department. You have Sean Kelly at full back as well. Johnny McGrath's a good man marker as anybody as well. So yeah, Galway are looking really, really good at the moment. There are other teams that have stepped up to the new rules, and you have to give them credit as well. But Galway just look absolutely brilliant at the moment. They're unbeaten. They look at serious battle at the moment. Even at the Derry game, which they drew, was the only game that they failed to win. They still looked on full course to go on and win that game as well. So I would agree with most of the commenters there. Galway are league final bound. It's just a question who will play them. And it's a good start to the year for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose you mentioned Dublin a little bit there, but it was a big win versus Derry, 320 to 212. Big result and performance from the Dubs in Croke Park. I mean, a few kind of early warnings from Derry. There were 6 points to 3 early up. They had a massive goal chance. Could have maybe went 6 point up. But once Dublin obviously got the goal from Noel Scully, it felt like it was never really in doubt after that. Derry made the scoreline maybe a little bit more respectable towards the end of the game. But all in all, top class performance from Dublin. And even with all the retirements, the players not there, the players still to come back. I mean, Dublin are looking good.
They are, and there's a few players that have really stepped up, especially Sean Bogler. He's got 19 points in the league so far, 18 from play, got 60 the other night as well. He's just done absolutely brilliantly, and I can't stress that enough. He's definitely stepped up with the mantle now that Paul Mannion stepped away for a bit. Jack McCaffrey stepped away as well. James McCarthy's retired. Brian Fenton's retired. The list is endless there, and he's really stepped up. So is Luke Brannock. I have to give him credit as well. He showed a lot of promise at Sigerson Cup level and underage, and he's definitely stepping up for Dublin with 10 points from play. And a welcome return to Conor Collin as well, 4 points from play the other night. So Dublin are looking good. I think the one negative for Dessie Varn, though, I don't know, is this true, Aaron? Apparently, Sean Bogler went off with an injury. If that is serious, then he's been your main performer. And if he is injured for the next few games, and especially for the championship, if the injury is as serious as some people make it out to be, then that could be dangerous for Dublin. But I will say, like, the players that have come into the Dublin panel have really stepped up to the plate, and there are more to come. Like Ethan Dunn, I'd expect him to step up in the next few weeks if Dessie has him in his plans as well. He's done really well for DCU in the Sigerson Cup as well, And other players have really stepped up. Like Larkin O'Dell got a goal the other night as well. There was a few scrappy goals from a Dublin point of view, especially the one from Conor Tyrrell, which I think the Derry keeper McNichol has to save. I think that, I know he doesn't play goalkeeper as usually as most other goalkeepers up and down the country, but that's like bread and butter stuff, and it was just a poor kind of moment for him. He'll learn, obviously, but that was kind of an indication that he isn't a top level goalkeeper. Not just not a top level goalkeeper. He's not a goalkeeper at all, and maybe there's question marks for Paddy Tally in regards to that as well. So yeah, good performances from Dublin. Derry were kind of out of their depth in this one. I'm sure they have to improve in the next few weeks. If they are to survive, they probably look probably the most likely candidate to get relegated. They need a miracle probably to stay up. They need at least 2 wins out of their last 3 anyway. They probably need a third as well. So it's going to be difficult times for Derry to try and get wins on the board. But for Dublin and their new guys as well, like even Niall O'Callaghan, who started this game from Coola, I know he didn't score, but it's encouraging that you get these guys in, because they have performed well for Coola. Luke Brannock's case, they have performed well at underage. They performed well at Sickerton Cup level. And now they're stepping up to the mantle. And the players that were the Dublin panel, but were accompanied by the likes of the Fentons, the Banyans, the McCaffreys, are really stepping up as well. Sean Bugler being the main one. Tom Lahiff is really done well as well. So is Brian Howard. So it's all good for Dublin at the moment. Some good results, some good performances, some players stepping up. And it's just a positive time to be a Dublin fan at the moment, even with the return in the off-season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I wasn't at the Dublin game at the weekend, but speaking with other Dublin fans, and you know, through WhatsApp groups and everything else like that, kind of saying, maybe was there, like, I know obviously we have had the retirements, and we have had Brian Fenton, James McCarthy, Mick Fitz. You know, there's a few kind of other lads. There's, as Tom says here, Lee Gannon out for the season with injury. Not sure if it's true. I have heard something about that as well, but I don't know if it is true. I've also heard maybe Paddy Small might be coming back into the fold as well, but again, you don't know if that's true either. There's so many rumours going around with Dublin at the best times, you don't really know. But in terms of the players on the pitch, like, were we a bit naive or wrong to rule out Dublin and write off Dublin as much as Dublin have been written off maybe at the start of the year, including myself? Look, I thought we'd go down. Look, I didn't think it would be that big of a problem. I still thought we would be up there challenging for Sam, but you know, a couple of 4 or 5 weeks ago, if you had asked me, do I think Dublin can win this All-Ireland this year, I would have said no chance. Whereas now I'm like, I know it's the league and everything else, and look, you know, we had a great league last year and then had a disappointing kind of end to the championship. You can never get too carried away. But given how big of a pool of players that we have in Dublin, given the fact that, yes, the underage hasn't been brilliant, but there's still teams there. There's still brilliant facilities, great underage coaches, great club teams, and players who've been on the fringes who haven't been able to get a chance because of your Fentons, your McCarthys, Mick Fitzes and whatnot. So was it maybe a bit naive that myself and other Dublin fans wrote Dublin off as much as we have so far this year?
I will just say this before I get into that. I did say Dublin would survive, and I thought they'd be comfortable in surviving. I still believe in Dublin, so I'll take the W there. But yeah, you look at Dublin's bench against Derry, and there are some impressive names on this. Conor O'Callaghan came on and scored 4 points. Obviously, it turns out was on the bench after his DCU exploits. Padder Coffey-Byrne, after his cool exploits, was on the bench. Owen O'Connor Flanagan, also the DCU team, on the bench. Larkin O'Dell. So there were players that really stepped up for Dublin as well, and there's probably more to come as well. You don't know what the situation is with Stephen Cluxon. According to Desi, he's going to play this year. But even then, like, Evan Comfort hasn't done too badly. You still have David O'Hanlon in and around the panel, but he can't even get in the matchday squad, which is probably an indication that Dublin's goalkeeping state at the moment is looking really good. Theo Clancy is settled in massively at full back as well, which is a positive. Obviously, with Mick Fitzsimons leaving the Dublin panel, Sean McMahon has done well. Cian Murphy has done absolutely excellent as well. Alex Cavan, also on the DCU team, done really well at cornerback so far. Kevin Lahiff as well. Owen O'Donnell, I know he didn't score against Derry the other night, I don't think, but he's settled into the team at full forward, and he could be something like a Kieran Donaghy type player for Dublin. I think Owen O'Donnell. I think he's a loss to the hurlers, but I think for the footballers, he could be that kind of target man that the Dublin team do need, and he's going to be a massive player for the season as well. And even Niall Scully stepping up and getting 1-2 the other night, that's another example of a player that was probably surrounded by great players like the McCarthy's and the Fentons, but he's really stepped up as well. So there's a lot of positives. There really is from a Dublin point of view. Yes, the proof will be in the pudding in the championship, but it's a very good start for a man that was under pressure really with Desi Farrell. Like, imagine with Brian Fenton leaving, with James McCarthy leaving, with Mick Fitz leaving, there was going to be a lot of pressure on Desi. Kind of, how is he going to get the most out of this young talent, yes, talented, but young crop of players? He certainly proved in the league. So we'll have to see how it all plays out in the championship. But it's all good signs so far for Dublin. And I think Dublin fans should be very, very positive about the season this season. And yeah, so good young players coming through. You look at DCU, look at Coola as well in the college and club competitions. And the proof is in the pudding there. The players are there for Dublin and they're gelling together really well.
Yeah, absolutely they are. And Mikey says here, Dubs are still a team in transition. They will be in the conversation for Sam with Galway, Donegal, Kerry and Armagh. Yeah, look, absolutely. And there's still a long way to go. Look, I'd probably still have them 4 teams above Dublin, in my opinion, in the reckoning order for Sam. I think Kerry are the ones we're probably closest to there, but I would definitely have the other 3 above Dublin at this moment in time. But look, obviously a lot can change. And I don't think the gap is that big as well between a lot of them teams. I think anyone can kind of beat anyone there on any given day, in my opinion. Mikey says Derry are as good as relegated now. Just a word on Derry before we move on to some of the other kind of games. But it's 4 games now for Derry under Pally Tally without a win. As you said, like, you're a bit more optimistic maybe that they can still get out of this.
Because of really the performance they gave against Galway in round 3, because of the way they fought back and the way they performed against Kerry as well, when they probably should have won that game in Celtic Park. What a team needs in this relegation dogfight is battlers, and they need to fight for every point that they get. And I think Derry did that in round 2 and round 3, but they didn't do it in round 1 and round 4. So it's kind of a mixed bag so far. But it's a big if. I know it is a huge if, but if Derry produce the same level of performance as they did against Kerry and they did against Galway in the second half in particular, I think they still have a chance of survival. You can't just write them off just yet. Like, they still have Mayo to play, another team that's in transition, another team kind of scrapping for survival there. Yes, they've Donegal, that's going to be a tough game, but even with Donegal, like, Jim is not going to play his full hand against Derry, especially with Donegal and Derry playing each other in the first round of the championship. Do you really think Jim McGuinness is going to play his full cards in this game, in the game coming up against Derry? I don't think so. So I think Derry still have a chance in that one. And then their other game is against Armagh. Like, Armagh this league campaign have blown hot and goals. So like, there's still a chance for Derry. There is still a genuine chance there with the opposition that they still have to play. And as well as that, they are showing fight. So I'm not saying that Derry will survive for definite. I'm saying it's not over yet. They still have 3 games to play. There's still some points to be won. And if they show some battling qualities, which they have already done in the previous rounds in this league campaign, there's still a chance there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we'll get the league table up in a moment. They're definitely not gone. And I don't think, as you said, although they got beat comfortably enough in this game, yeah, I do think there is still some performances there. The problem is that they're just not winning games at the moment, and you need to at least get 1 or 2 wins on the board there. But we'll see, obviously, what happens. Tyrone, disappointing result for them versus Kerry, 2-13 to 3-13. I think Tyrone must be absolutely kicking themselves here. Like, they had this game within their grasp. They led for the majority. I think seeing something that in total they led for like over 50 minutes or something of that nature. Kerry go down to 14 men with a black card. David Clifford then goes off with a black card. He then comes back on the pitch and scores a goal like instantly, which was kind of crazy. But I mean, how did Tyrone throw this away? But huge win for Kerry, because had Kerry have lost this, I think they might have been in a massive spot of bother, to be honest with you. But that win obviously gives them a bit more breathing space. And yeah, the Clifford show as well with 3 goals. But geez, Tyrone must be kicking themselves here.
think they must be, especially when Mark Bradley scored that rebound for the penalty. They were, I think it was 2-13 to 2-8 up, and you were thinking, this is it, surely. Tyrone are going to win the game, but back in Kerry, obviously, the man himself, David Clifford. But I've said this in a previous podcast, and I said this to Kevin Kennedy on my show on Thursday night as well, and I have believed in it for a few years now. I think if you take David Clifford out of the Kerry team, I think they struggle massively. And I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think like he makes them tick. Like without David Clifford in the team, Kerry would have got 10 points in this. Like let's look at the cold hard facts of it. I don't like their highest score from play other than David Clifford is all a plethora of players on 1 point in this game. They don't have enough to, other than obviously the man himself, to challenge, I don't think, for an All-Ireland. And I think there is a serious argument if David Clifford wasn't there yesterday and if Jack did rest him, Jack O'Connor, again, then they would have been a serious relegation bother. But the reality is now they've saved themselves. They're probably staying up this year. And yeah, I'd say it was a win for Kerry. And you could see the expression from the Kerry players afterwards. They were absolutely delighted to get over the line. But it might have been a get out of jail card for them as well. And as for Tyrone, look, there were positive signs. Like I would say they did lead for most of the game. But to throw it away like that, to be 5 points up and throw the game away, they will be gutted, obviously. Malachy O'Rourke's men, but a bit of a caveat to this as well, and I'm sure this was talked about League Sunday, and I'm sure a lot of commenters will talk about this in this show as well. When Kerry were down to 13 men, they could only have, with the 3-3 back rule, they can only have one man in the half, and that rule, I don't know, they probably have to tweak that in at the end of the league at least, because there's no advantage for, in this case, Tyrone in this game when that happens. And then, like, when David Clifford goes off with a black card and the other player, I'm not sure off the top of my head, I think it was O'Glee or somebody that went off with a black card, then there's no advantage for Tyrone. You wouldn't have thought Kerry were down to 13 men. So it's definitely an issue that needs to be solved, obviously, in with the FRC. It's just not an advantage at all. I think either Lee Keegan or in the McGinley called it farcical last night, or was it Malachy O'Rourke in the post-match interview called it farcical. And I probably agree with him, to be honest. It wasn't just great to see, to be honest, and there's just no advantage. When a player goes off with a red card or a black card or whatever, there's just no advantage there, and it probably needs to be tweaked in the FRC in the next few weeks by the end of the league, surely. But look, Kerry will be happy. Just get over the line. 4 points on the board now. They're probably safe from relegation. Move on to the next game now. But for Tyrone, they're now in a relegation dogfight, and they need to get wins sooner rather than later.
Yeah, like it's a strange one. It's almost like they've not thought that one through. When a player gets black carded or red carded, like it's not, they obviously haven't thought that through at all, and they'll be like, yeah, it will make no difference whatsoever. And as I said, it wasn't at the Dublin game, but I did hear of similar instances. I think I've seen someone tweeting out that Dublin fans were booing when Derry were leaving 2 up. So yeah, it definitely is something that I think they need to look at. Liam says, love the way David Clifford celebrated his 3 goals, looked happy. His best game for Kerry since Derry in 2023. Yeah, I think it was just a reminder of how good Clifford is. I don't think we saw the best of Clifford in the championship last year. I don't think he looked, I don't really know, like he had his moments obviously, but it wasn't that kind of raw brilliance from David Clifford that we're so used to in terms of the movements, the quick transitions, the way he moves with the ball. I think is so different to other players in my opinion. Like the agility that he has, like he's almost shooting before you can even see it. He's that good. Mikey says David Clifford dragged David Clifford, best player in the country by a mile, dragged Kerry over the line on his own. And Sean says throw the kitchen sink on Clifford winning player of the year this year. Kieran also says here as well, wrong to say there's no advantage. I think there is, like, there's some advantage, but obviously, like, there's some advantage in certain moments, but it's not, you can still leave 2 up, 1 up. So, right, you know what I mean? If you have to leave 3 up, then you would leave the space. So in some ways, like there's minimal advantage, but not the type of advantage you should have if someone gets sent off for a black card.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, and it's worth pointing out, Tyrone were at 15 men and Kerry were 13 men. Kerry could leave one in their own half, let's say a full back, and Tyrone still had to leave 3 forwards up. That has to change.
Yeah,
I think something like that, like just to give an advantage to a team that should have the advantage. And this wasn't just a problem in the Tyrone and Kerry game. This was a problem in Galway, Donegal, probably not as big because of the wind, obviously. And you seen it even with Power Joyce now yesterday and things like that as well. Power Joyce was saying leaving 2 up when Matthew Tierney got a red card at the end of the first half. And look, it worked from Galway's point of view, but like the FRC have to fix this, because like you're going to have situation. If you have this situation, let's say Aaron, God forbid, in an All-Ireland final or an All-Ireland semi-final, there's going to be uproar over this. So I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it's happened now at round 4 of the league, that people have realised this. And I think the FRC have to fix it by the end of the league at least. And yeah, there isn't. Yes, it isn't technically correct to say that there's no advantage, but it's nearly no advantage, isn't it? Look at Tyrone; they should have had the advantage yesterday, but to have 3 men up or 3 men back against 1 Kerry player, I don't know where the advantage is there. So something has to be fixed there. Is my point.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure they will revisit it, maybe before the championship or whatever it may be. Armagh, they drew at Mayo 117 apiece. Again, another game where Armagh look like they, I suppose this is the thing, isn't it, with these new rules? You look at a scoreline, you think it's done and dusted, you think Armagh are comfortable, but then a couple of 2-pointers and the game kind of turns on its head. And quite incredibly, like Mayo could have won this towards the end, Armagh could have won it. It really could have went either way. In the end, it settles for a draw. And as you said, like for Armagh, had they won this game, you would have thought, right, that's 4 points on the board. At least they can kind of say they're not safe, but they probably need one more win. Whereas now, especially with some, they've got Dublin obviously to come next week. They've a couple of away games still to play as well. It might be like I do think Armagh will be fine, but it could be a bit nervy now.
Could be, yeah. And first of all, you have to give a lot of credit to Mayo for coming back into this game, because a lot of their players have been questioned over the last few weeks and saying, does Kevin McStay have a plan this year? Are they embracing the new rules? Has Kevin McStay lost the dressing room? Have Mayo players, are they actually going to give it a go this year? But they've proven in the last 2 games with the win over Tyrone, yes, scrappy, but they got the win in the end. And this game against Armagh, they do care. And they are fighting for every point. And you have to take a lot of positives as a Mayo fan by looking at them 2 performances, especially the second half in both games, where it could have been dip and tuck in the Tyrone game in particular. They got the win at McHale Park in the end. And this game, they could have won it. It was 117 to 115 going down home stretch. Stephen Campbell gets a point, and then I think it was Conor Turbitt got the stoppage time point to level it in the end. And Armagh get the point they need in the end of the day. I think if Armagh would have lost this game, they would have actually been kicking themselves, much like Tyrone against Kerry. But they got the point at the end. And again, like Armagh, I know they lost the lead, and you could say that it was poor game management and things like that. But the reality is as well, towards the end of it, when they were questioned towards the end of the game, when they were 2 points down, when they needed some sort of heroes to step up, they got them. Like Stephen Campbell stepped up, got a point. Conor Turbitt stepped up with 3, got a point. They got a draw. And it's better than nothing. Look, Armagh, yes, there's still some problems with the performance level, and there isn't high enough scores and things like that. But that will be brushed up as the year goes on. I don't think they perform to the best of their ability, but that's probably expected with the likes of Reno O'Neill missing and maybe the All-Ireland final hangover and things like that. We're seeing the same with Clare and the hurling as well. And if that does happen, they probably need to pick up the performances. But for now, when the performances aren't there, they're still picking up results along the way, which is still a good sign. So look, still some positives for both teams, still some negatives as well. I think both sides will be happy with the point, considering the circumstances. If I was to say a team that would be probably the most disappointed with this result, probably Armagh, given the fact that we're 8 points up at half time. But But look, it is what it is. It's a draw. They'll take it. They'll move on to the next game, both sides. And just on a side note, Conor Turbitt's point at the end of the first half, a one-pointer. Seriously, it's I think
it was the keeper though, because the keeper tapped it over.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's a bit of an odd one really, because he has taken the shot from outside the arc, but the keeper I think it's
the thing is, Aaron, it wasn't outside the arc, was it? It was on the sideline, near between the 12-meter and 20-meter line. So it technically wasn't outside the 40-meter arc either. So even if the goalkeeper didn't tip it over, it would have still been 1 point.
1 point, yeah.
So it's mad.
Yeah. I don't know. Mikey says here, Mayo left the win behind them. They found a new forward in Davin Neary too. Yeah, that'll be the positive for Mayo, because I think that, like, I feel like with Mayo, they have been very predictable probably over the last year. It's been Ryan O'Donoghue. It's been trying to get Tommy Conroy fit. They've obviously, in previous years, they've had Killian O'Connor and some of the, the other kind of lads there. Your James Carrs and whatnot as well. But I think it is important for Mayo to find new players to kind of come in and kind of stamp their authority on this, because I think Mayo's forward line, like, you've seen a couple of players, like Aidan Norm was kind of knocking about for a few years there. He was looking like he's going to be the next big thing. A few other ones kind of here and there as well. But it's important for, to find a bit of consistency with some of these Mayo forwards who are coming into the team.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at Fergal Bola's performances at some stages this year and last year, where he was excelling in the league massively. You have other forwards there. And I think the main thing for Mayo is to find more forwards that can take the kind of scoring strain of Ryan O'Donoghue. Like, Ryan O'Donoghue was the top scorer in the championship last year, without getting to the All-Ireland quarter-final. It was because he was relied on way too much by Mayo, and they needed players to step up this year. And you have to give credit to David Neary. 1-7 for playing in the league so far. He's in the top scorers for playlist so far in the league as well. And he's done excellent. You have to give him a lot of credit for chipping in with some crucial scores, including the goal on Saturday evening as well. A well-taken goal, by the way, as well. So you have to give Kevin McStay, yes, he hasn't got a lot of credit in the league so far, but to bring in a guy like David Neary, who, to be honest, maybe other than Mayo circles, myself, yourself, Seamus, or anybody else, probably wouldn't have heard about before this league campaign, to bring him in and for him to excel the way he has, I think you have to give McStay and the Mayo management team a lot of credit for bringing this guy in and taking kind of the strain off Ryan O'Donoghue as well. Yes, he's still their top scorer with 14 points so far in the league, but there still is other forwards like himself, like Fergal Boland at stages, that are stepping up. And that is the main thing from a Mayo point of view as well. So they've got 3 points on the board without playing particularly well. I think they'll be happy as well with finding some new James like Neary as well, which I think they'll be happy about, Kevin McStay and the management team.
Yeah, just on that, I think I was mixing it up with a different point. I think you meant the one, I only seen the highlights of the game and I must have missed this point, but it was won by the sideline. So it was,
I thought I went mad there. I thought I didn't see the goalkeeper tip it over, and I probably should trust myself more.
There you go. Yeah. No, that's just me. I was watching the Sunday game on the bus, so maybe I don't know, I might just fell asleep during that part or something. I don't know. But there we go. But yeah, it is. Look, there's a lot of grey areas with these new rules, so it's going to be interesting to see how they do iron them out. But yeah, this is the Division 1 table then. So we've got Galway on top with 7 points, Donegal and Dublin both there with 6. Kerry are up to 4th now with 4 points. We've got Armagh and Mayo with 3 points, Tyrone and Derry both in the relegation zone. And looking at the games next week as well, they look tasty enough, to be fair. Would love to be going to that Armagh game, but I'm going to be in Prague instead. So, I suppose it's not a bad alternative, or hopefully anyway. But yeah, in terms of relegation promotion, what are you thinking there?
Well, for the league final, I'm going to say Galway. Long night. I'd probably go Galway to make the league final, and I'm going to say Dublin to join because I agree with one of the comments actually earlier. Jim would probably not want to reach a league final to get the hype train even more up with Donegal. As for relegation, I don't think Derry are gone just yet, but I think, looking at prediction, I'd probably say them to go anyway. The other team, it's going to be tight, really is. I'm going to go Armagh to go down.
There we go.
But
interesting. Yeah.
We'll have to see. But I think it'd be one of Armagh, Mayo, or Tyrone. Stab at the dark, I'll probably go Armagh to go down.
Yeah. I think if I had to call it at this moment in time, I'd probably stick with Derry and Tyrone in there. I think Mayo have shown a bit of fight over the last couple of games that gives me a bit of confidence, and I think they could actually get something against Kerry this weekend. And in terms of that league final as well, I think I think it does. It could be a Galway Dublin final. Although I do still think maybe Donegal will get in there. Maybe Donegal Galway is probably what I'd go for at this moment in time. Division 2 then. Monaghan 316, Cork 115. Bit of a setback maybe for Cork, but at the same time, Monaghan, have been looking pretty strong so far in Division 2. Not too sure if we were at this game, but what were your thoughts on anyway?
Made the long trip to Inniskeen, so I was, yeah. Yeah. So more than that, actually, I chatted to John Cleary after the game as well. John was disappointed, obviously. Look, but he did admit, like, the better team won. Monaghan were just much sharper. The first half, the goals from Jack McCarron, Stephen O'Hanlon, and Ryan Wiley just kind of killed the game in the end in the second half. But yeah, Cork probably, like, there are still positives. I think context is needed for people that didn't watch the full game and things like that. In midfield, Cork actually bossed Monaghan in that department. I think Cody, look, the Monaghan fans are actually nice, and they're very welcoming, and it was a good ground in the Skeen and things like that as well. Just the results wasn't good, obviously, but look, Monaghan, best luck to them, obviously, in trying to get back up to Division 1 for them. And nice fan base, obviously, and some very good players in the squad. Yeah, look, I on my point with the midfield, I think Cork actually bossed midfield. We retained 72% of our kickouts, and we won 54% of Monaghan's kickouts. So I think actually our midfield with Sean Walsh and Colin Buchanan actually did very, very well in this game. There is a saying in Gaelic games where if you boss the midfield, you win the game. That wasn't the case, obviously, in this game. I just think Monaghan were just much more clinical with the goal chances that they had. They had 5 goal chances in the first half. They converted, obviously, 3. Another one was actually in the back of the net, but it was a square ball against Kieran McNulty. And the other one, David Garland, just whizzed over the bar. It was a point in the end. So at least they got 4 scores out of a possible 5 goal chances. So they really converted their goal chances in the first half. And when they needed some leaders to step up in the second half to keep them just that bit more in front, Rory Beggan really stepped up with 7 points, 3 2-pointers into the wind, which was absolutely exceptional from him. And Conor McCarthy got a crucial score as well for Monaghan. We got some good scores towards the end. Mark Cronin got 1-8 overall. Conor Callahan could have easily hit the net, so could have caught O'Mahony as well. We had goal chances ourselves, but we just failed to convert them in the end. And I think the one thing that would disappoint John more than anything, John Cleary, is probably the one-on-one defending, especially for the goals. We've conceded 7 goals now in our last 3 games. That probably isn't good enough to go. But then again, we'll bring up the table later. Like, if we win, Roscommon's now a must win next week at home. It's going to be a hard game, but we have to go and try and win that game. And John was saying that afterwards. Well, it is a must win if we want to keep our promotion hopes alive. But yeah, it was some good aspects for the Cork performance. But look, Monaghan were just a much better team. They were much sharper. They took their goal chances as well. But I will say there's a lot of football still to be played in this Division 2 campaign. It's not over just yet. I think Monaghan have to go to Louth next week. That's going to be a difficult game for them. So yeah, it should be next week. We'll tell a lot about the games next week. But when I was on last year, I was very, very negative about Cork football, as you very well know. But this year, look, there is still positives. There's still a lot of football to be played. We're still in the mix somewhat. So So yeah, there's a lot of football to be played. As I said, there's some good aspects. Monaghan were just the better team on the day, and they will be a tough team to beat for anybody in this league campaign. So yeah, the be all in and all. Cork have to win next week against Roscommon to have any chance of keeping up the promotion charge. If we lose next week, I think it's gone. But there's still hope. There's still a slimmer of hope there.
Yeah, Mikey's always got some comparisons with football teams here, or Premier League, well, Championship teams. Cork, the new Leeds, will it be another 10 years before we see them in Division 1? To be fair, I think you are motoring along nicely. Like there are positives there, and there's been a few setbacks, but as you said, like that game next week against Roscommon, because especially, and look, we might as well transition straight over to that game now. Meath 218, Roscommon 17 points. Look, we'll get on to Roscommon in a moment, but I think you have to mention Meath here because what an extraordinary win. I seen Davey Rispin on Twitter from the We Are Meath podcast, and he's been on the show. He's been on your channel. We've both been on his channels, or his show before as well. He said the Meath players were clapped off the pitch. And yeah, an incredible result. Owen Frayne with 6 points, 2 goals in the second half in the space of a minute, turned the game around. And Roscommon, I think, led by 6 at that stage. But yeah, huge win for Meath, and it blows the promotion race wide open.
That's what I was thinking yesterday when I seen that result. The Eights, like, you'd be disappointed. Like, first of all, we have, before switching my own point of view, you have to give credit to Meath, and I'm really delighted for Davey because Meath have had a lot of potential over the last few years. That result was coming in the last few games because they have performed well. Yes, they lost to Cork first day out, but the performance level was there. And there was positivity in Meath football, and you have the players there now. You have a core group of lads, like the likes of Owen Frayne, Jordan Morris. Costello actually wasn't playing in this game, which was an even more impressive thing to win this game without him. Connor Dew got 5 points yesterday. I think they were brilliant. Sean Coffey and Ronan Jones. Obviously, Ronan Jones is a goal getter in this league campaign, 3 now in the league. He has done excellent, obviously, as has the whole Meath team. Kieran Caulfield, Jack Flynn has really been a colossal. I really was a fan of him against Cork. I thought he performed really well in Parky Keefe. And Steve's took his game to a whole new level in this league campaign as well. Meath have performed brilliantly. Kieran Caulfield, obviously the DCU captain as well. They've done brilliantly, Meath. And that was a brilliant result yesterday from a Meath point of view. Just before switching on to other things, I mentioned to Donald Keoghan yesterday. Meath true and true to mark Dermot Murtagh and to keep him scoreless throughout the whole game. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's a magnificent performance from him. And maybe Dermot Murtagh seemed to be the player of the league coming into this game. Maybe you could teach other teams in Division 2, if you have a man marker that's going to stick with Dermot Murtagh throughout the whole game, put him on him. And you could see the results out of that. And Donald Keoghan deserves a lot of credit out of this performance as well, and delighted for him as well because he's been through the trenches really from Meath football over the last few seasons, and for him to produce that big performance, it seems like now Meath football is in a really good spot at the moment. The Robbie Brennan seems to be gelling a team together now. They're playing some simple stuff from what I'm hearing anyway in the last few games, and they're getting results, which is a massive thing from a Meath point of view, and they deserve a lot of credit, obviously. From a Cork point of view now, this opens it up. This Division 2 campaign with Meath at 6 points, Roscommon and Monaghan at 6 points, we're on 4 points as well. You could add Louth and Cavan to that equation as well. It's going to be very tight up the top of Division 2 now, and it would give us a lot of confidence moving into the Roscommon game next week because it does prove when Roscommon go on the road, they are beatable. They looked to be unbeatable in the first few games, but Meath have shown if you get at this Roscommon team, if you get a good man to mark Dermot Murtagh, they are beatable. And this will, I'm sure, it will give the Cork players and John Cleary a lot of confidence going into next week. But from a Meath point of view, give Westmeath now next week, they'll hope to kick on again and get another win. But this win probably was coming given the performances they have been giving. And myself and yourself, Aaron, sat down after the Dublin game last year and we were thinking, if Meath didn't look like they gave a damn really about the Dublin game. They kind of fell down too easily. It was a bit too easy for Dublin to go on and win that game at the Leinster quarter-final. You look at this year now. I know Dublin are performing well, and we talked about the positives earlier in the chat, but are we seeing a Meath team now that can seriously compete in Leinster? I think this could be the start of it. They look really, really good. The players are gelling together. They have a coach that is just going to teach them basic football skills and let them play, let the leash off, and they're getting results off it. So I think Meath football is in a very good place at the moment. I genuinely hope they put it up to Dublin now in Leinster and they kick on for the rest of this season and they prove that there is kind of positivity in Meath football right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and even as a Dublin man, absolutely. Look, I obviously don't want me to beat Dublin. Obviously, of course, I don't want that. But you want to see the rivalry back. You want to see them up there, and even Kildare. Look, I know we've bantered Kildare a good bit over the last couple of years. It's nice to see them doing well as well. I think it's Leinster as a province is a sleeping giant in many ways, and I think we would all it's been great to see Louth do well. And obviously, we'll speak about them in a couple of moments as well. Big result for them this weekend. But yeah, no, it's great to see. And as you said, a lot of young players coming through. A lot of players have been around the Sickerson Cup the last couple of seasons, kind of making the step up. One thing I hope is that they can build on this and continue this, because I do remember under Andy McEntee around 2020, there was that burst where they went up to Division 1. And there was so much hype. There was a lot of talk. And then obviously, I remember they played Dublin in that COVID year. And Dublin just completely steamrolled them. And I think they just never recovered after that, to be honest with you. So I hope, like, if they do go into Leinster and they do take a battering from a Dublin, that they don't, their heads don't drop. And that kind of affects the rest of their year. I hope they can still do something. And even as Mikey says here as well, Meath will take a scalp in the All-Ireland series, especially when you look at the amount of chances that they're creating as well. And I've seen Kevin Kennedy alluding to this on Twitter as well. In terms of chance creation and the numbers they're putting up, like they're in flying form, it must be said.
Yeah, and even in the game the one game I did stats on a Meath game against Cork, they created 40 scoring opportunities. And that was a game that they lost in, by the way, as well. Meath are doing well at the moment in terms of creating shot opportunities. They seem to be very, very solid defensively as well. They conceded 2 goals against Cork, but only one conceded against Down, none against Cavan, none against Roscommon, one in their last 3 games since Cork put 2 past them in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They have tightened up defensively. Robbie Brennan learned a lot from the Cork game. They performed well, but there were still some tweaks that they needed to perform well to get even better. And you have to give Robbie Brennan a lot of credit for this. Like, he was coming into a job where Colin Moore kind of failed Andy McEntee in the end. It was underwhelming in the last few seasons. He was coming into a Meath job, which was, yes, Kilmacud Crokes. It was a magnificent achievement to win the All-Ireland for them and get to All-Ireland finals, etc., win Dublin championships. But it was a major step up to get up to inter-county level. And it's like a duck to water for him. Like, he has done absolutely brilliantly from his point of view as well. So yeah, Meath look really, really good at the moment. They're creating a lot of chances. As you said there, you just hope that they take this momentum now, take this victory, and carry that momentum on for the rest of the season. I think they can do it. Like, they have Louth and Westmeath coming up the next 2 of the next 3 games. I think they're Monaghan at home as well. So they could easily win the next 3 games if that's the case. So yeah, Meath looking really, really good, a really good place at the moment. You just hope, as you said, from Meath's point of view, that they keep this momentum going.
Absolutely, yeah. No, a big result for Meath, and obviously a setback for the Rossies as well. Another result that threw up a bit of a surprise was Louth beaten down 2-17 to 22 points, a 1-point victory in the end for the wee county. Down, I suppose, a common trend of a lot of games this weekend. Like, Roscommon were leading Meath at halftime, Tyrone were leading Kerry, Armagh were leading Mayo. Down were leading Louth at halftime, but Louth came roaring back to win the game in the end, right at the death as well. Massive result for Louth football. Given just a couple of little setbacks they had over the last couple of weeks, you were starting to think, could they potentially go down? But this result gives them a massive boost.
It does, yeah. I think Down would be very disappointed about this result, because I think this was probably a game that they marked to say that they could win, especially with Louth kind of struggling under the new rules in the last 2 games. But yeah, it's a good win for Louth. You have to give them a lot of credit for it. Obviously, Sam Roy getting 10 points in this one. They're probably still over reliant on him, but it's better to be over reliant on one player, I guess, than did not have any scores at all. So it's a brilliant performance from him, obviously. But I think Down will be disappointed. 2 points in their first 4 games. And when you look at the losses, like against Louth, they were up at halftime. Against Roscommon, they were up at halftime. And against Meath, they only lost by 3 points. They will be kicking themselves looking at those games and thinking, we could have won those. I think they'll be disappointed, obviously, Down. And they have to win the next game next weekend. They're playing Cavan at home, I think it is. That is probably a must-win for Down if they want to stay up in the division, and probably a winnable game from their point of view as well. So yeah, there'll be a lot of pressure on Down to win next week. But as for Louth, good comeback from them. Still some question marks on whether they've grasped the new rules and things like that. A lot will be answered next week against Monaghan. That's a tough game for them. I know it's at home at Drogheda again, but that's still going to be a tough game for them facing the side that is currently top of the division. We'll see the proof in the pudding next week, but it is a good result for them considering they were down so much at halftime.
Yeah, John says here, great win by Monaghan at the weekend, played in nice sunshine. Good idea to move the game to Saturday. Cork bossed midfield for about 20 minutes in the second half. Looking forward to Louth next weekend. Yeah, absolutely. Liam says even with Louth's previous results, I still think they're in for a good championship season. I still think so as well. I think with Louth, they have a lot of very good players. It just is about probably adjusting to the new rules as well. Speaking of comebacks, this was a little bit mental. So Westmeath lost in the end to Cavan, 122 to 21 points, but there were 17 points to 4 up at half time. Now again, there was a huge wind and everything else, like the entirety of the country. Except for Dublin, we didn't really get much wind, but we very rarely do. Cavan, they came roaring back. I mean, goodness me, what a win. But Westmeath, like, they've come so close in a lot of these games, but yeah, it's just very hard to see them get out of this.
It is very hard, all right, but like the context is has to be put on this game as well. Not just the win in the second half, but Westmeath had Kevin O'Sullivan sent off at the end of the first half in this one, and they had Jamie Gnu sent off for a black card, and eventually Jamie Gnu got sent off as well later on in the game for a yellow card, which obviously equals a red. I still think they'll be disappointed the way they let the lead slip though. George, it looked a very even keel game up until the last few minutes. Then George Smith gets the goal for Cavan, and I think honestly after that goal it was almost like the hits dropped for Westmeath, and you're like, how have we lost this game? It's unfortunate for them because they have performed well in the 4 games, but to get no points on the board out of it, to lose the way they did against Cavan in this game, to lose by only a point against Cork as well, to lose the way they did with a late goal against Monaghan, it's sickening. I would imagine from a Westmeath point of view, this was probably a game again that they probably earmarked at home. So a Cavan team without Paddy Lynch, and they didn't get over the line. But having said that, you have to give Cavan a lot of credit, and one player in particular that's really stepped up in my opinion, Darren McVitie. He scored 13 points per play in 4 games in the league. He came into the Cavan panel in the last few seasons, and he was a player that really stepped up, especially in the mid-2010s for Cavan. He's come back into the panel after his travels, and he's done brilliantly for Cavan. You have to give him a lot of credit for that. Darrell Over got a good 2-pointer towards the end as well. Cian Madden came on and made a big difference for Cavan as well. Killian Clark made a big difference after coming on as well. Cavan have some good players there. They got 2 wins now on the board. They face Down next week. You'd imagine if Cavan win that game, they're probably safe, and they'll be delighted with that. It's going to be a tough game, obviously, against Down, who probably need the win themselves. So yeah, it's a difficult game for them, but I'm sure Cavan will take the positivity. But as for Westmeath, yes, there was the red card and the black card, but they'll be sickened the way they lost that game.
Yeah, absolutely. They most certainly will be. And this is how the table looks then. So yeah, it's all to play for really there, isn't it? Like, 2 points separating the top 5. Monaghan, Meath and Roscommon all there with 6 points. Cork with 4, Louth with 4, Cavan with 4 as well. So 2 points actually separating 6 teams there. And yeah, fair play to Cavan as well for getting a couple of wins to put them, I don't think we would expect them to be promoted, but look, they've put themselves back into the mix there, and fair play. Down and Westmeath obviously both down at the bottom as well. If you have to call promotion and relegation now, who would you pick?
Promotion, obviously, I hope my county do with Cork, but to be honest, I take my boys' cap off. I think it'll be Roscommon and Meath that'll go up. I think Monaghan might slip it down. I just, in terms of promotion candidates, I probably wasn't as impressed with Monaghan as I was with Meath the time they played us. So I think Meath will do enough to go up. And as for going down, Westmeath are gone. It's a lot will depend on the down Cavan game next week. And that's actually Breffley Park. My apologies there, according to GA League tables there. So it looks pretty bad for down, I will say. I'm still going to be positive about down. I'm going to say Cavan will probably be the second team to go down, but it's going to be tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as you said there, shout out to GA League tables as well. I always like to give them a shout out as well for obviously using some of their work there. So fair play to them for their great work, and they're lovely looking league tables there. That's Division 2 in the bag. We'll look at Division 3. Sligo Clare was postponed, so obviously we won't be discussing that. But Fermanagh beat Offaly 113 to 3-6. Bit of a surprise result in some ways. Look, going to Fermanagh is always tough. Going away to Fermanagh, whether it's at Brewster Park or elsewhere, it's always a tough place, a tough county to visit, and a tough county to play in. And I suppose, bursts the bubble a little bit for Offaly, given how well they've started. But at the same time, you can't be expected to win them all, and a minor setback. And then actually, when we look at the league table, they're still in a very healthy position as well. But yeah, big win for Fermanagh here.
Vital win for Fermanagh, and helped with Declan Cusper getting a goal in this one and a point as well. Garver Jones getting 4 points. But look at this game on Scorpio. It looked like Fermanagh were miles ahead at half time, and Fermanagh and Offaly got back into this. It's actually impressive enough that Offaly pushed this to a point game. So you have to take the positives from Mickey Hart and Declan Kelly point of view. I still think they're in a healthy position to go up. A lot will depend on the games against Clare in the next few weeks. Maybe not so the Kildare game, as we'll discuss it. A big Kildare are just miles ahead of everybody else. But yeah, it's a good win for Fermanagh. It's a vital win to keep their promotion charge. A slimmer of hope alive there from Fermanagh point of view, but from an Offaly point of view, it's not the end of the world. They'll go into the next game. They'll try and get back on the horse in terms of wins. And yeah, it's a setback, but I think Offaly should be fine in terms of trying to go still for promotion charge. Like, all's not lost yet.
Yeah, and the other two games in Division 3 were Antrim 4-16, Leitrim 1-11. And as you said there, Kildare, very comfortable winners versus Laois, 21 points to 9. Two results you probably did expect. I suppose Laois have been on a decent kind of run the last two games, two kind of big wins. One of them obviously versus Offaly. And Antrim beating Leitrim fairly comfortably, I suppose, at least on a positive note. Nice to see Leitrim get double digits and get a goal as well. Yeah,
it is nice to see that from a Leitrim point of view, but they were still outclassed in this one. And this is probably an Antrim team, no disrespect, but I think they're probably thinking of survival rather than promotion as well. So yeah, it was a good win for Antrim with Dominic McInerney and Noel Burns getting 1-4 each. But yeah, it was a romping. And Leitrim, I think that's standard practice. They are not good enough for Division 3, and back down they go. As for Kildare, Kildare fans will be annoyed with this commentary on the podcast, but it's kind of rinse and repeat what we're saying every week. You're impressed with the way Brian Flanagan have approached Division 3 in a way, because they are meant to batter everybody. They've battered everybody so far. That's all you could say about Kildare, really, because they aren't playing high-level opposition, but they seem to be motoring along very nicely. Noel Kelly and Ben McCormick in particular did very well against Laois. But the batter rivals like that against a Laois team that have done well in the last few games and started to get a bit of positivity on the board, to beat your rivals like that by 12 points is still an impressive result, no matter what the division is. So you have to give Kildare and Brian Flanagan a lot of credit over this. And they still, they'll win Division 3. They'll romp home in Division 3. The main question for Kildare is, how will they get on in Leinster in the championship? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I think the positive sign for Kildare is that two teams who beat them last year, Laois and Fermanagh, they have beaten them. Look, albeit they've beaten them at home and not away. But that is a positive sign from a Kildare perspective there. Comment here from Nurb here who says good performance by Antrim, neighbour of mine Niall Burns got man of the match. Yeah, fair play. Congratulations to Niall there. Looking at Division 4, one big result here that probably went under the radar at the weekend was Tipperary 17 points, London 2-13. An incredible result here for London. That's 2 wins now in Division 4 for them. I mean, could London get promoted?
If we're being realistic, probably not, Aaron. But look, we can dream. Look, it's a very good result from a London point of view. But as one person on my Instagram said, how could Tipperary compete with a city with 9 million people? Look, that's the joke. That's a joke. Look, it's a joke, but a lot of London people coming at us after that. But look, it's a very good result for London. In all seriousness, Kieran Diver and Shea Rafter got 1-3 and 1-1 respectively. Like, that's good performance from them in particular. And Michael Maher, you have to give him a lot of credit. Year after year after year, he's got the best out of these London players, and you have to give him a lot of credit over that. As for Tipperary, it seemed like positivity in the first 3 games, and I was really impressed with them, especially like Sean O'Connor and Mike Russell and all them in the first 3 games. But that is a result that has made them go back down to earth with a bang. That is not really... You're talking about it really, really serious here. That is not a good result for Tipperary football. It's a backward step, especially at home in Thurles. You would expect Tipperary to go on and win this game, especially after getting 5 points out of possible 6 in the last 3 games. It's a bad result for them, and it's probably dampened their promotion chart. But as for London, very good results. Deserve a lot of credit over them. To beat Wicklow and Tipperary, that's still a good year's work so far for Michael Maher's team. Let's hope they can push on even further.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's great to see, in fairness, and fair play to London there. Limerick beat Carlow 117 to 13 points, and Longford got a much needed win versus Waterford as well, 211 to 112. It's a hard one to know, really. I think a lot of people were expecting more from Carlow this year. I think they're kind of around the level I predicted them to be. But for Limerick, big result for them to keep them in the promotion chase, and massive for Longford as well, because Longford and Waterford have probably been pound for pound, 2 of the weakest teams in the country so far this year. Well, Waterford, you can understand it, and as we've discussed before, they actually are making strides and improvements. But Longford, obviously, given where they have come from over the last couple of years, it's been massively disappointing. So, big win for them.
Yeah, huge from a Longford point of view. Matthew Heary again with 4 points. Aaron Farrell got 2 goals for them. So, big result for Longford just to get the confidence moving for Mike Sonan's team. That's a very good result for them. As for Limerick and Carlow, I don't want to say patronizing. I expected that result. I expected Limerick to have a bounce. I still think Jimmy Lee's side are very, very good. James Knox got 1-6 in this one, and you still have the likes of Ian Corbett, Josh Ryan from goal, as well as an excellent player. Emmett Richter is a player I'm really a fan of. So I think Limerick will probably be in the promotion conversation. A lot of people might think it's Munster bias, and the fact I spent a few years in Limerick, and maybe I'm just giving them praise because of that. I genuinely think there's very good footballers in Limerick, and I've said that for so many seasons now. So I think they are still in the promotion charge. They have to get a few more wins to solidify themselves in the promotion places. But it's a very good few results from them. They beat London, they beat Carlow. Just have to keep the run going now.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll run through the tables. Division 3. So we have Kildare on top there with 8 points, Offaly with 6 points, Laois and Clare, Antrim and Fermanagh all there with 4 points. Obviously there is Sligo and Clare still to play. But I'll ask you the same thing I asked you for the last 2 divisions, because we skipped over Division 3 table by accident there. But in terms of Division 3 promotion and relegation, what are you thinking there?
I think promotion Kildare is an obvious one. Slam dunk. The second one, I'm gonna go Offaly still. I've been still impressed with them, and I think they'll beat Leitrim next week. That's not even a question, really. And in terms of going down, Leitrim, obviously. And the second, I'm going to go for Antrim. I think 4 points is probably the max they'll get. I think they'll go down with Leitrim.
Yeah, I think Leitrim and Antrim will go down. And I'm actually going to go Clare and Kildare to be promoted there as well. Division 4, you've got Wexford on top with 6 points there. Obviously, without still have a game in hand there as well. So shows you how results have gone for them this weekend. Limerick, Tipperary with 5. London are 4th with 4 points. Wicklow with 4 points as well. They have the game in hand versus Wexford, and then you've got Carlow and Longford with 3 points there. So like even looking at it, like it's still like obviously maybe if Wexford beat Wicklow, then that's probably them. That's them promoted, you would imagine. But like looking at it there, it still feels like it's all to play for a little bit there.
It does, yeah. It all depends on that Wexford and Wicklow game. But considering Wexford have home advantage, I'd back actually Wexford to win that game and get to the points, which should be safe for them to go up. And the other team I'm saying to go up, I've said it for a long time now, Limerick. I think it's their time to go up from Division 4. They're good enough players. They're certainly way too good for Division 4. I think Limerick will get the job done and get promoted with Wexford.
Yeah, if I had to back it for now, I think I'll stick with my original prediction of Wexford and Wicklow. I still think Wicklow can get promoted there, but obviously we will wait and see. Mikey says Division 4 has been interesting this year. Yeah, to be fair to Division 4, it always it's always brilliant. It always throws up surprises. They're always divisions you think you can predict, but you never quite can, because you get surprises like London coming along and just winning 2 games. And obviously, because we get to see very little of it as well, it's it makes it harder to predict, but it also makes it better then when you see the kind of surprise results. But yeah, moment of the week and player of the week before we finish up. What are you thinking?
Moment of the week, I'd probably, it's hard to pick really. I'd probably, what's it tough? Probably me beating Roscommon's probably moment of the week. It has to be really. Like nobody really expected that, despite the fact that Meath have performed, and yeah, you have to give it Meath and beating Roscommon. For player of the week, I wouldn't normally give it to a back, but considering this performance, I have to give it to a Donald Keoghan. Keeping Dermot Murta, a guy that got 25 points in 3 games, scoreless throughout the whole game, is magnificent, especially under the new rules as well. Brilliant performance by him. Definitely deserves player of the week. So 2 Meath picks for the main awards there for the week.
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of go against that. I mean, you look at London's win as a massive moment. In fairness, but yeah, like maybe Louth getting the result versus Down was a big win for them. But I think the Meath Roscommon one probably is the moment of the week. Player of the week probably go with Shane Walsh or Sean Bugler. Maybe Shane Walsh with 11 points. He was outstanding for Galway, in fairness. But yeah, anyone who tuned in, hit the like button and subscribe if you could. Let us know your thoughts on the weekend's games. I'm not too sure how that comment came up there. I didn't even press on, so I don't know what's going on in this house today. But yeah, anyone who tuned in, hit the like button and subscribe. And until the next one, we'll speak to you all again.